Welcome to Project Comedy, a podcast by and for military veterans doing stand-up comedy, turning military banter into quality stand-up comedy acts. We might be veterans, but our comedy aims to get everybody laughing. A collection of veterans met during the global pandemic and found a passion for stand-up comedy. We might have COVID under control, but there's always another virus out there. And just like herpes, we're back again, baby. Welcome to season 2 of the Project Comedy Podcast. Once again, I'm joined by the comedy STDs that are the Nerdmaster General, Jamie Johnson, who compares the leader of the opposition to unattractive baked goods, the reluctant millennial that is Dan Wright, the MI6 comedian of Project Comedy. He's the only ambassador without a video on our YouTube channel due to his security clearance. Joke surfer par excellence, Trev Cowell, who adores extracting the urine from his so-called colleagues, not to forget the dark soul of Project Comedy himself, that is Gabriel Murphy, who's currently recruiting for the anti-ginger rights campaign. And I'm Jay Saunders, the Labrador pimp and most effective contraceptive on the South Coast. How you doing, guys?
Huzzah!
All good, all good.
Hurrah!
And given the Edinburgh Fringe is just about to start, we thought we'd examine what the fuss was all about. After all, there are comedy festivals all over the country. So what makes Edinburgh so special? Indeed, what's the point of any comedy festival other than for a load of comedians to get together and try to write off a piss up against tax? So let's face facts. We know next to nothing about festivals, Edinburgh or otherwise, so we need an expert. We thought long and hard about who we could invite to speak on the subject. It was a very short list. We asked, and they weren't available. So we had to scrape the bottom of the barrel and get Jay Sodagar again. Seriously, what Jay doesn't know about Edinburgh Fringes isn't worth knowing. Thanks for joining us again then, Jay.
Thank you. Just so like we may have an early finish here, it is basically a tax write-off for all the alcohol that we drink up in Edinburgh. Jobs are good, and there you go. It's been a pleasure being here already. This is, but yes, no, I've missed this podcast. Well, I'm going
to say it's season 2. How are we all? How do you survive the break?
We're grand. We just had the biggest heat wave in history. I think that was Gabe coming back from hell. He's brought some of the heat back with him.
I swear to God, that fucking heat wave nearly killed me off. Like, I was not happy about that. I am writing a strongly worded email to some cunt.
how did the ginger kid do? That's the question we're all asking.
She was actually all right. Like, she was fucking lathered in suntan lotion all the fucking time.
Locked in a cupboard. This is it.
I mean, because we all know that gingers have vampire blood. That's why they can't go out in the sun.
She's funny as fuck. Like, she'll just be. She's like me. Like, you know, the second like the temperature goes up like half a degree, like her face will go fucking pink. And there's me sweating buckets looking at her like that. Yeah, no, don't worry about it.
And I thought before we get into talking about festivals, because we've just had the break, it would be stupid of us not to mention the two main things that have happened since we recorded the last episode. So first and foremost, let's start with Boris almost resigning. I mean, what do we think of what's going on with the Conservative Party?
He's a pathological liar. Boris Johnson is an absolute I'm even questioning, is Boris his real name, or has he just been lying to us all this time up until now?
Yeah, his hair's not even real.
There was two things on Prime Minister's Questions that I fucking really loved, and I've loved watching it with him, like, because he's just so fucking weird. It's when they said like, oh, there'll be no closing statements now, and like, you know, this is the Prime Minister's last Prime Minister's Questions, and everyone went, bye, Boris. And the other fellow who stood up and said, I was just wondering whether the Prime Minister can think of any reason why he would ever retire. Why would you ever resign? Is there anything that could possibly happen that would make you resign.
The only thing that was missing in his final speech was his 78 kids filing into the house and giving him a resounding standing ovation as he trooped off down and out the door.
And then leaving to the sound of music.
I always loved how he deflected every single question. So it was like, yeah, mate, how about all these times you lied about the PPE? Oh yeah, you know, but we did do well coming out of the lockdown, didn't we? We've done well in the G7. We've got the biggest increase in in prosperity, and we've got more people in work. It's because there's more fucking people, you dickhead.
Since he's resigned, I have noticed a lot of work parties have been, a lot of work party invitations have been kicking about. So
I'm just loving how such a beautifully democratic process this is. The joy of the fact that less than 1/3 of 1% of the UK get to decide who our next prime minister is. I mean, that's statistics that fucking Putin is envious of. I mean, it makes us look junior to North Korea. We're doing so well with democracy, guys.
I love how it's just like a bunch of rich twats who have no connection with working people, understanding like working life, to control working life, picking the next rich twat who has no connection with working life to judge how everyone works and lives. It's fucking stupid.
This is the thing that gets me. I mean, we've got the options now of Rushy and Liz, and it's sort of like, if it weren't for the fact I think that they're two of the most reprehensible human beings ever, I'd almost say it's psychologically cruel to let them become the prime minister. I mean.
Just so it's clear, if anyone has seen a picture of me, I also tried to become prime minister a couple of weeks ago, but got knocked out very quickly. It's an Asian thing. It's an Asian thing with us. This is what it is.
This is it. If Rishi ends up becoming prime minister, he's going to have to go to the United States, where the Republican Party still can't fess up to what Trump did and is. I mean, Rishi doesn't realise the only popular Asian in America is Raj from the fucking Big Bang Theory, and he's fucking it's.
I thought it was a poo from The Simpsons.
I swear to God, though, like the whole thing of like Rishni's fucking campaign slogan of like "Get ready for Rishni." Isn't it? If that lands him a job, he can Sunak my balls.
Liz Truss permanently looks like somebody's holding a gun to her head. I mean, she's so. Can you imagine her in the same room as Putin? She's going to end up panicking and blinking in Morse code, saying to Putin, "Have whatever the fuck you want." I mean, how are we going to use these two to lead our fucking nation?
But it's still better than the opposition. I mean, can you imagine the deputy leader of the Labour Party, who really shouldn't be in Parliament? She should be on the Jeremy Kyle show.
Yeah, I like Keir Starmer, like, because when Boris turned around and said, he had a gathering, and he just went like, yeah, mate, I'm a lawyer. I went through the rules. I'm fairly sure that we followed them. Right, you can well go for it. Like,
you'd still vote for Boris above Diane Abbott, though, wouldn't you?
Oh, definitely right.
Can you imagine if Diane Abbott counted the votes? You'd have to take her shoes and socks off. She'd run out of fingers.
She's counting the votes for the Conservative election.
That's how Boris got in the first place.
According to Diane, Margaret Thatcher has been elected the new leader.
The thing is, they're so out of touch. They are so out of touch. Like Nadine Dorries is the biggest spunk stain I have ever seen ever in my entire life. Seriously. And I'm saying that.
You've seen many in your time.
Tell her dad.
I repainted the spare room. You can see why.
The Jackson Pollock effect.
Jackson Pollock.
But my whole point is like Nadine Dorries. She was the one, like, I was reading newspapers today, who was sitting there criticizing Rishi Sunak about wearing some £3,500 suit or whatever, and she's sitting there going, I only ever go shopping for clothes twice a year, and I only spend nothing more than £1,000. But I do like my £6,000 earrings, though. Check that out. There you go. That is literally MTV Cribs. That is literally MTV Cribs. She's just done there. It's like, yeah, I only ever get gold-plated Lamborghini.
Did you see what he said about Liz Truss's earrings, though? She pointed out that Liz Truss had bought £6 earrings from Claire's Accessories. We want that to be in charge of our economy? What the fuck?
Yeah, it's like us. Fucking get in there.
This is it.
I love that though, like that girl going, oh yeah, I only spend like £1,000 on clothes, apart from me £6,000 earrings. It's like when I go for a medical, isn't it? Yeah, doctor, I only drink 12 units, a month. And, apart from when I drink it in a day. Last night when I had 40.
It's better.
I'm a complete non-smoker apart from cigarettes and pipes.
but it's still better to get earrings from Claire's Accessories than a pearl necklace from Weatherspoons.
You should probably order on the app.
Yeah, take 25 minutes to get to your fucking table.
With chips.
Be all crusty.
With chips.
With chips. At a pint.
It'd be all crusty and
Still
horrible
at
and yellow.
9 o'clock in the morning.
A special brew chaser.
The other thing I wanted to mention, because, this is a confession for me. I really thought I hated football. It turns out, over the last couple of weeks, I realised what I hate is men's football. I mean, the Women's Euros. Who knew you could actually be tackled playing for your national team and you don't roll around the pitch as though you've just stood on an IED? I mean, I didn't know it was possible that you didn't have to be a complete pussy to play football. Which is so ironic, considering we're talking about the Women's Euros.
So you're saying you have to have a complete pussy to be good at football?
The only chance we've got.
The British men's team.
Yeah, but I'd love to be on the coaching staff. The after-game bath must be awesome.
Somebody had to go for it. Somebody had to go for it, but I knew it would be Trev.
And I'm willing to go for it for the team. I'll go for it anytime you like.
Boris is going to be the new women's team manager.
Vote for Trev.
He's going to go for it.
Yeah. I'll tackle you in your box.
Comedy.
Go on then. Let's actually move into the subject matter then. All right. So Edinburgh's just about to happen. Many people will have heard of the Edinburgh Festival. They may even heard of some of the smaller festivals nearer them, things like Brighton, Reading, etc., etc. Jake, what is the point of these festivals? I mean, are they actually important on the comedy circuit?
Yeah, they are. They're Edinburgh, just so to give it some context, is the biggest arts festival in the world. Literally, like everyone from all overseas and everyone comes to take shows to Edinburgh. It's the biggest arts festival. It's not just comedy; it's like theatre and dance and kids shows and magic and all this kind of stuff. And the reason why is the entire industry just go to Edinburgh to scout for stuff. So the point of Edinburgh is like it's kind of like the ideal home exhibition. If you've ever been to the Ideal Home exhibition, you go there and you get those fancy tin openers and, you know, that new way of like eating corn or something. I don't know, whatever it is, some new product. All right. They set up a stall and then public come in and they kind of watch all these kind of fancy little gadgets and so on and so forth. But also like people like Tesco's and Aldi and all these big suppliers go there and they pick these things up. And that's how these little suppliers make a living, because all they need is one order of 100,000 units from Tesco's or something and they're suddenly made. That's the exact same thing with Edinburgh. So all these comedians go up there doing hour-long shows and so on in the hope they'll get picked up and so on. And it's not necessarily just the awards, it is for other stuff as well. Like the entire TV, film, radio all go up there to literally scout and set up new projects like sitcoms and stuff, and that's where they go and get all of the stuff. So I'm going up to Edinburgh. I'll just drop that
hello,
in.
sir.
Plug that show just straight away. There you go. It's at 7:45. It's at Bar 50. I'll drop you a link. This is it. It's a very good show. This is basically an hour of just me plugging my show. I might even just do the hour show here, but you know, but no. It's my first solo show. It's my first solo show in 7 years, and I'm actually a bit nervous. I've been doing this for 25 years. I've done 14 other solo shows, and now I'm going up to do my 15th solo show, and I'm nervous. I can't believe I'm nervous for this.
As Rishi Sunak's wife's ex-accountant, I bet you was even more nervous, wasn't you?
Oh yes, no. That's a pressure gig. That's a pressure gig. This is why it's a tax write-off.
When you say the entire industry goes up there, is that just TV and radio, or is it? Am I imagining that sort of like people from the Comedy Club and Glee, or bookers like that go up there as well?
Literally everyone goes up. The entire industry.
Like High School Musical.
Yes. I start to do all the dance moves and everything.
Randomly break out.
When you said everything goes up, I thought you was referring to an orgy.
Yes, yeah, it does. I mean, that's usually on the last weekend or the bank holiday. We tend to.
Fantastic.
So you can combine all these different strands by having a Rolf Harris tribute finger puppet show.
Yeah. That's at 6:45. That's at 6:45.
So the warm-up show to Jay Sodagar is Operation U-Tree, the review.
Yes.
The interpretive dance version.
There actually was Operation U-Tree the musical. It was done by student theatre. I'm not shitting you.
Did Gary Glitter write it?
Cliff Richard.
I thought
Cliff was innocent. He was innocent.
I do love that. Like how acceptable is a nonce over how good is his bangers that he bangs out. Like Michael Jackson's all right. We can get away with him because he laid out some good songs. Lost Prophets is a bit of a grey area. Some people like it, some people don't.
Oh, you get some proper Edinburgh stories. You do like
the kids liked it.
Family got Paris to two little boys.
Twice. But you get some proper, you can go up to Edinburgh and see some shows that are phenomenal. They're absolutely amazing. And they're the kind of shows that end up either on the West End or kind of gigging or touring and so on and so forth. But there is some absolute shit up there. It's phenomenal. I'll tell you a story of one, right? I'll tell you a story. I won't mention the comedian's name. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I've
never done it.
No, it was Dan. It was Dan. This comic, he's renowned to be pretty rubbish on the circuit. It's like not even a 5-minute type of open spot, and he got a venue and he was doing an hour-long show, right? And on one of his nights, the bar staff in the actual venue saw 2 audience members go in at the beginning of the show, right? So they had a quick peek through the curtains just before the show starts, just to make sure everything's all okay and everything. And there were literally 2 audience members in a 50-seater room, 2 audience members. Okay. All the bar staff were outside in the bar. 5 minutes later, those 2 audience members walked out. All right. All right. But the guy carried on performing to no one in a room for the rest of the hour. Right?
Oh, wow.
God.
So it was one of Boris Johnson's work parties. I mean, work meetings.
At least you didn't get heckled.
How bad would that have been if you had been, though?
Maybe he's a blind comedian, so he didn't realise nobody was there.
I don't know if you remember this. There's a comic called The Comedy Terrorist who broke into was it Prince William's birthday party as a publicity stunt just before Edinburgh. And he did a show in 2003. This is when I went up for the first year, and he packed out every single night, but he barely had 5 minutes of material. And what happened was like he packed the place out. It was a 120 seater, but you can read the reviews online. They were literally like 1-star reviews. It was terrible. It was like, and what happened was quite a few of the comics obviously saw the publicity stunt. So we broke into the show. We started heckling him while he was on. And see how he likes it. But yeah, no. But yeah, so there's all sorts of Edinburgh stories and complete mentalness. There was one person who did a 48-hour show. 48 hours straight stand-up, just stood on stage. He had some guests and had little power naps for half an hour every so often while the other comics were on, but in the room. There's all sorts of craziness that goes on. It's like one of the most wildest festivals. Has anyone here ever been to the Edinburgh Festival?
I did Amdram at the Edinburgh Fringe for 4 years running. So I enjoyed doing that, and getting around the comedy circuit was the best part of it, because as you said, it's either brilliant or, my God, it looks like the lunatics that arrive in the early weeks of Britain's Got Talent. It's like really painful.
Yes, but that's the beauty of it. That's the absolute beauty of it. Dan could do a show in Edinburgh easily, no problem. What's that? An hour. No, joking.
International man of mystery.
The only festival I've done is Download, and I've seen that they have comics on, because obviously it's a heavy metal music festival. But on the Wednesday and the Thursday, they have comics and other stuff doing performances and stuff. So for me, I'd love to do that.
Yeah.
And then maybe, fingers crossed, get the 3 days of music free.
Well, years ago.
That raises a good point. I mean, if Edinburgh is so important, then, what's the point of things like the Brighton Fringe or the Reading Fringe or these mini festivals or smaller ones? What does that do for a comic?
Well, the industry doesn't really go to those. They have their own kind of smaller kind of awards or things like that, but the majority of the industry don't go to any of those. And those kind of mini festivals like Brighton and Leicester and all these, they're kind of run-ups for Edinburgh. So a lot of comedians go there to kind of preview their shows and kind of put it into shape and stuff. But they have their own little kind of, like there's the Leicester Mercury New Comedian of the Year Award and all these kind of things. Manchester's got one. They're all regionalized all over the place. But yeah, I remember years ago, just picking up on what Gabe was saying, years ago, I did a spot at Glastonbury. And that was nice. The weirdest gig I've ever done. Literally, like, we were in a tent with about 500 people stoned out of their nut, just staring at you. And you're hitting them with your best punchlines, and they're just going, It's like comedy. I don't really like jazz music, but I felt like a jazz musician.
One of the heckles would have been, "Hey, Rishi Sunak's fun, isn't he?" Wow,
nice.
That suit must be at least £3.50.
Imagine if you'd have.
I thought that fella on the news only did the news.
What is the Mayor of London doing at Glastonbury? Right?
Hey, he's a funny cunt. I'm voting for him.
Fucking hell, they took my last joint. I've got Rishi Sunak performing for me today.
Why is Martin Bashir on the pyramid stage? He's done nothing good since Michael Jackson.
As they toss away the Prosecco and say, I'm clearly a Tory. We'll never have a Prosecco again. It's champagne all the way now, baby.
I'm more Sajid Javid than Rishi. Rishi's got hair. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
It's a pain I know, Jake.
Richie and Roland Rat have never been seen in the same room.
Very true. It's very true. It's very true. It's very true.
Bit of background research. I did a bit of background research into the Edinburgh Fringe and remembering what I did back in Amdram days. Edinburgh's freaking expensive, isn't it, to do?
Wow, is it?
And I know you cover it on the intermediate course, but Jay, what sort of like the most cost-effective way to try and do Edinburgh, and what sort of money are we talking about?
Sure. There's 4 cost elements. There's your venue hire, there's your accommodation, there's your costs of actually going up there, and then you've got your marketing budget, which is pretty much unlimited. Accommodation, everyone has to go there and stay there and live there. I mean, you can do the thing about, staying in Glasgow and then training it in every day and then training it back and so on and so forth, or live on a campsite or whatever. But just to give you an idea of the cost differential, I went up in 2003 as my first Edinburgh show, and I rented a flat, a 1-bedroom flat, and it was like 1,200 quid, right? And like even in London, you could rent out a 1-bedroom flat for about 900 quid or £1,000 or whatever. It's like 1,200 quid in Edinburgh just for the month. All right, so it's already expensive. This year, into 2022, I'm renting a room for 1,500 quid. All right,
A room.
It's got a private bathroom. That's the only thing.
I was about to say, you best not be
renting the bathroom.
Yeah. What he doesn't know is he's rented a room of a pimp, and that's why it's so expensive.
This is it. I'm charged out at 20 quid an hour, so I've got to do a lot of tricks just to get my way. But no,
the flat and find every light bulb's red.
I've rented the understairs cubbyhole.
Selling Sodagar.
I've got
a big long vertical window in the front of it.
I've got to wear stockings and suspenders. That's the only rule, apparently. It's on Airbnb. It's on Airbnb.
Are you doing your own version of Harry Potter and you're living underneath somebody's stairs?
Yeah, but he's trying to get people to touch his wand.
If they want to play Quidditch on my dick, yes.
So basically, unless you're paying like $1,500 for your accommodation, you're expecting to be in a glory hole.
I think that's the reason why I got it so cheaply, to be honest. But, yeah, there is a glory
the devil's arsehole by any chance.
Yeah, where's the glory?
The gig
hole
I did
stage?
in Manchester. But yeah, no, I mean the accommodation is expensive. Your living costs, you still have to eat and drink and so on and so forth. You've got to go into like the Fringe brochure and you've got prints and flyers and distribution. But the most expensive part of Edinburgh is actually your venue hire. And there's like, in terms of comedy, there's like 4 main hubs for the comedy, which is like the Gilded Balloon, the Pleasance, the Assembly Rooms, and the Underbelly. And a typical cost to a performer to hire out for 1 hour a day for the entire month is about $8,000, $9,000 for a 50-seater room. For a 50-seater room, $8,000 or $9,000. If you go for a 100-seater room, you are obviously talking about $12,000 to $15,000. And there are rooms that are bigger than a 100-seater, which are like $15,000 to $20,000. and you get a box office split, and it doesn't work in your favor. So Edinburgh is extremely expensive. So as an alternative to that, there's this new thing that's called, well, not new thing, it's been around for about 15 odd years now, is what's known as the free fringe, where basically a venue, a pub or a nightclub or whatever during the day is completely empty, and they have equivalent sized rooms that they kit out as like little theaters and so on, and they let you have it for free, and you take a donation at the door, which is entirely yours, which then saves you 8 grand, 9 grand, 10 grand, however much you want to kind of spank on it, out of your budget. Before the free festivals and all of that, it used to be typical average cost of taking the show to Edinburgh is about 15 grand. Nowadays, a lot of the people that I know who are doing paid shows at like the big venues are literally forking out 20 odd grand, which is not cheap. It's like, that's a car, a brand new car every single year. That's Nadine Dorris's like 2 sets of earrings at least. That's her 2 clothes shops.
That's a birthday and a Christmas present.
Saying that,
she's got fuck all to expect now.
Saying that, I guess you've got to speculate to accumulate. So that 20 grand that you put in, the return on that, if you're successful.
Well,
if you go.
Well, this is how I became like a full-time comic, because way back in like when I first started, 1996, I started to get like a few paid gigs back in like 2000s, as it were, and started to get some paid gigs, but nothing enough to make a living on. And then I set myself a challenge to myself to write an hour show and take it to Edinburgh. So I took show up to Edinburgh in 2003. And I lost 9 grand on that 1 year, in that August. Just in that 1 month, I lost 9 grand, right? But the other 11 months of the year, I made that and 4 times that back, and that became my living. And it compounds itself year after year. So the following year, you go back up, the entire industry go, oh, you're that guy. Yes, yeah, you're doing really well. Yes, you're very, very good. Yeah, we've got an idea for a radio show or a TV show or this, that, and the other. And then the following year, yes, you still lose some money in August, but the other 11 months of the year pay you that back and more. And that's the investment you really do. If you go up with a shit show and 2 people walk out, and yeah, you still got to stand on stage and do it, fuck all's gonna happen. I've never heard of that guy since. I've never heard of it. Oh, there he is, Dan. All right, Dan, how are you?
That's why I'm never ever gonna go.
again.
It's one of the 2 candidates for Prime Minister.
Dan's not even going to go to watch anything.
The 2 people that walked out, the 2 people that worked out were Sunak and Truss. That's all I'm saying.
And Boris was on stage.
He was the warm-up fluffer.
While everybody's just checking their pacemakers after finding out how much it costs to go up there, and are quickly checking how much they've got left on their credit card, let's take a quick break to let people know how they can do something for free and join Project Comedy. Are you a veteran, or even still serving, and think you'd like to give stand-up comedy a go? Then why not join us in Project Comedy? Visit the Project Recce website, that's projectrecce.org, then click on how it works. You'll find a Register Here button in the Project Comedy section. Fill that in, and the HQ staff will soon get you connected with the Project Comedy community and its weird and wonderful ambassadors. You'll be invited to our green rooms, where if you want it, we can train you in the basics. If not, you can just come along and have a laugh with us and see what we're up to and what it gives us. So what makes for a good show then, Jay? What makes for a good Edinburgh show?
Well, now this is the debatable thing, all right? Because everyone, this like this guy who was at the venue, 2 people walked out, he just carried on doing the entire show. That guy clearly didn't have an idea of what a good show is. For me, I've always sort of like, I love comedy, so I always like my idols are the comics that I kind of really want to be like and emulate, and kind of sit there and go, I want to write a show as good as that, or as good as Chris Rock, or as good as Stuart Lee, or as good as Al Murray, or as good as that. Those are the types of people that I kind of go, I want to do a show as sharp and as tight as that. And then there's other people who kind of go, do you know what? I can talk for an hour. That's a show. And then they go there and it's like this, like an hour. I've seen some shows. I've seen some shows up there, and it sounds really, really bad, but I've questioned whether I even understand what comedy is. By the end of the show, I sit there. I've been doing this for 25. Did I watch comedy? It was in the comedy listings. It's there. I have no idea what that was, and no one laughed for an hour. They're very hot, sweaty rooms. I mean, if COVID-20 wanted to start, this is the time. August is when it will all kick off. It'll be a super spreader sensation from there.
The Edinburgh variant.
Yes. But yeah, no, I mean, like, you know, I for me, I've always wanted to sort of take shows up. And one of the motivations of going to Edinburgh back in 2003 for me was some of my friends who are kind of open mic acts took shows to Edinburgh. And I was like, why are you taking a show to Edinburgh? You can barely do 10 minutes. Why are you going up there? And I sat there, and maybe, and a bit naive me, I sat there and thought, maybe in Edinburgh they are slick hot and they're like really, really good. Maybe that's the standard. And that's what I always thought. I thought the Edinburgh Fringe would be like this phenomenal thing where every act just absolutely storms it. And I went up in 2002 and watched some of them, and I was like, I could do better than this, which sounds so cruel. I don't want to mention any names at all. But Dan was one of them.
Who is this Dan anyway?
Apparently he's got a killer routine about Mumsnet from the first. But we've just never seen it.
I've got the same name as him, but I've never been. So it just feels like I'm being targeted. And I'm getting kind of triggered from this.
I do have to say, you do look like him and sound like him as well, Dan. Well done. Well done.
But I've never been, so I don't understand.
It's uncanny.
Dan, you've got it already, mate. There's the name of your show, mate. You're just going to call it Trigger Warning, sponsored by Gay
Just an hour of it wasn't me.
Joke one. Jay said there was this bloke called Dan. That wasn't me. Joke two. I'm still not that Dan.
Joke three. Jay Sodagar, a lying cunt, said it was me, not
me. Joke number 4. 2 people then walk out of the room. Joke number 5. Dan carries on.
Joke 6. There was no party.
It was a work
with another comedian.
Joke 7 gets heckled.
What kind of prep do you need to do to get a show to go? Yeah, you're saying it's an hour. Is it? Do you have to do an hour for people to look at you? And what kind of prep do you need to do?
Well, the industry kind of only really want to see hour-long shows. They don't want to see people doing 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. People do go up to Edinburgh to do, let's say, multiple hand shows where they only do 10, 15, 20 minutes or so. But that's really just for them to get good at what they do. I mean, if you do a full month at Edinburgh doing 20 minutes every single night, you should be pretty good at it by the time you've finished. But for the industry, they kind of only really kind of go and watch an hour show. And the prep, I mean, we look at it as a little bit like a typical calendar year is kind of like that August bank holiday to comedians is a bit like Christmas. It's kind of like we've worked all throughout the entire year, and then the show finishes on that Sunday, that bank holiday Monday. We've obsessed. We've written that show and tested it out. That bank holiday Monday for us is like, yes, we can just chill, relax. When we come back home, first week of September is like our new year. So we sit there and we start working on the next year's show, and we go to comedy clubs and drop bits in and test bits out and all this kind of stuff and put it all together and so on and so forth. And then by the time it gets to around December again, we apply to go back up to Edinburgh again. So it's a project. It's a yearly annual project, and it as a comedian, it tests you because anyone can do 1 hour. It's about churning out more and more material. I mean, I've done 14 shows, and I've thoroughly loved it. Absolutely loved it, because it's like it really pushes you as a comic. And if you can keep churning out, like, hour after hour after hour of material, like you look at some of these like really well-known comedians like George Carlin and your Frankie Boyles and Jimmy Carrs and so on, you think the amount of work that they put in, they don't just rock up, they work that material day after day after day, gig after gig after gig, to put that show together, to when it is a DVD or a Netflix special, it's so shit hot that you're like, oh, I remember that, oh, that was brilliant, that was fantastic. But there's a lot of work goes into it. But yeah, I loved it. I got complacent with Edinburgh for a few years, where I kind of sat there and thought, do you know what? It's like it's quite exhausting churning out a new hour. So I was kind of, I want to take a year off, and that year turned into 2 years, then 3 years, then 4 years, and then COVID happened, and then another 2 years disappeared off of it. And then it was like, okay, well, it's been 7 years since I've last now done a show. Let me do one. And I've fallen in love with stand-up again. The show is called It Has to Be Said, and it's kind of like this podcast. Like anything should be able to be said, anything, and you should never be afraid of stuff.
I thought you were saying it was just a complete clusterfuck of lunatics.
that's next year's
our show title.
Yes. Dan can compare it. But yeah, the whole thing is just like it's a phenomenal place to kind of go and test out material and test your mettle as a comedian. I mean, if you churn up year after year after year, just turning up, doing good shows and getting decent reviews and audiences, and you get a following. That's how all these big name comics got a following. Because Eddie Izzard went up to Edinburgh and he had a following there, and Daniel Sloss, one of my ex-students, as drop that in there. There you go. Got a following and so on and so forth. The Lost Voice guy. Mm-hmm. Another one of my ex-students. And this is it. This is exactly how it works. I love it. I've got another little story for you. A student of mine did the comedy course, the same as you guys did, the beginners course in Edinburgh. We teach the courses in Edinburgh. He did the course, never done stand-up before, right? And he kind of set himself a little challenge. He's one of these very driven people, right? He's very driven. He's kind of like, he's a bit mad, he's a bit crazy, but he's very switched on. Like he was a millionaire by the age of 21, apparently, right? He's one of these very driven, very intelligent people. I think his name was Elon. I think it was. Anyway, but no, this guy's from New Zealand, and he did the comedy course, and he said to me after his graduation show, he's like, I love Edinburgh. He's come up a few times and watched shows and stuff, and he's always wanted to do stand-up. And he set himself the target that the following year he will come up and do a 1 hour show for the full run, right? For a lot of comedians, we wouldn't even attempt that for years. This guy wants to do it in 1 year from no stand-up experience whatsoever, just from doing the course. And I was like, are you sure? That's crazy talk. I mean, like learning stand-up in itself is a bit of a task. You're trying to come up with a full hour Edinburgh show for next year. It's a slog. Edinburgh is a full slog. And total fair play to him. He came back the following year and he did an hour-long show. And he got a 5-star review from the Independent, and I was like, and literally he started from scratch, and he just kept gigging, and then wrote an hour show, put it all together, tightened it, polished it, the exact same stuff as I've sort of taught you, and he came back and he got a 5-star review from the Independent. I was like, wow. After that, I sat there and I thought, anything is possible. Literally anything is possible. I would never piss on anyone's parade. Yeah. But now he's a full-time comic. He's a full-time comic. Yeah, that's it. He bought the review. I guess it.
Independent.
Yeah, he wrote the review.
Yes. But after that, I was like, I can't ever sort of piss on anyone's parade. There's been a few people who've said that they want to do an hour show within 1 year of doing stand-up, and I've gone, off you go. You do understand the work that's involved. Off you go. And they haven't done it, but this guy did. So I was like, yeah, well done.
So how do you get the industry to actually turn up to your shows? Is it luck of the draw, or are there ways in, or do you get your face in front of them?
Yeah, we're hypnol.
I swear to God, if I go to Edinburgh, I'm going to be amazing. if it's that. Wait, what?
It is totally just being in front of people's faces and PRing and marketing yourself. You literally have to turn into like a PR person. Your job while you're up there in Edinburgh is not only to just do the show. That's the easy bit almost. The rest of it is the flyering. The rest of it is like schmoozing with industry and so on and so forth. But it works. I mean, I went up in 2003. I'm not a schmoozer at all, but I found myself in one of the bars that all the industry people sort of turn up to. And I was just there with other comics and we were just ragging around, laughing, having a joke and so on. And then one of the industry people came over, made them laugh, and suddenly they kind of said, oh, I like Jake. Oh, cool. Then if my name was mentioned in other circles, and then next thing I know, I'm making a living out of stand-up. Literally, it's literally as easy. It's a bit Illuminati. It is a little bit kind of like Goodfellas. You walk into these bars, it is like, hey, Tommy, how you doing? All right, yeah, you come sit down over here. Yeah, all right, say hello to your mama for me. It is very Goodfellas. It is like, and then I walk in and go, what? I'm funny, am I? You think I'm funny, do you? You think I'm funny? This is it.
Funny how?
And a bad review is a plastic bag in your head and a bullet in the back of your head.
That's exactly how it works. That's exactly how it works. This is like and then we dump the body in Glasgow, and no one notices.
Yeah, no one notices. Yeah,
no one even reports it because it's a thing.
But yeah, no, I mean it's a slog. I mean, back in the days, I mean it can be argued. I think back in the days, Edinburgh was always expensive. It's probably just not as expensive as it is now, but inflation and everything must have been as expensive way back then. But I think the days of going up to Edinburgh, doing a $2,000, spending $2,000, and then just getting drunk every night, those days well and truly went in the 80s. Well and truly went. Because now so commercialized. But it's kind of it's a good thing and a bad thing. A good thing in the fact there's so much more quality that kind of goes up there, but a bad thing in the fact that now there's 4,000 other shows that you're competing with and so on. But yeah.
See, that's why Aldi is a great thing.
Yeah.
Because you can get an amazing bottle of rum from Aldi for like 12 quid.
Yes. Are you saying I'm like Aldi material? Is this what it is?
No, I'm saying you budget your stuff, right? You go up there and you take fucking 300 bottles of Aldi rum. Sound.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's the way how Edinburgh works, Gabe. But
that's the way I'm.
That sounds like the Stoke Fringe Festival. Bring your own shopping trolley.
Maybe I missed something.
Like this is how I'm budgeting it. Is like how much Aldi rum do I have to take up there? Because if I'm having to live in a 1-bedroom bedsit and give out 20 blowjobs a day for fucking 1,500 quid, I'm gonna need a lot of rum.
Just to get that salty taste out.
Strong black coffee. That works.
Apart from Gabe buying dubious quantities of rum for us all, let's say we came up with a crazy idea going, right, Project Comedy are going to go to Edinburgh. What sort of tips would you give us to start thinking about, right, we're going to take Project Comedy up for a run at the Fringe?
Learn to swallow.
Run. I mean, I could give you a few tips on the glory hole thing, because middays is monster boy.
I've got to work on my gag reflex.
Try not to get your balls in the hole.
Not got that fat yet.
It's the weirdest thing for a straight fella to be amazing at blowjobs.
well, the first piece of advice I'd give to you is to all write different jokes than that. That's the first piece. No. I think Project Recce and Project Comedy is like a phenomenal thing, and I'm very, very happy to sort of like be part of all of this. So that's a unique selling point. When you kind of go there, I'm sure there's like veterans all over Scotland and stuff that would happily go, and loads of people would visit, and that's a good unique selling point. To watch ex-veterans going up and doing stand-up will appeal to that as a market. So if you're kind of thinking of it, and I do genuinely want you to, because I think it would be a phenomenal project and a phenomenal prospect to just to do this. It'll get you a lot more publicity for Project Recce and Project Comedy and so on. But also it's like as its own kind of challenge in itself for you guys from where you've kind of come from to actually go and do a show up there. Phenomenal, and you'll get a lot of PR attention for it. If you write a press release, market it out. Go out, flyer on the Royal Mile and do all those things. Gabe will be in Aldi drinking the rum, and
Poppers.
There could be a lot of potential audience members in Aldi already, which Gabe can flyer as he's doing it. But yeah, no, I mean, I'd like do it. As another little kind of side story, I taught a youth club in Richmond many years ago, and like the youngest was
an Operation U Tree story.
Yeah. Operation U Tree the musical. The ones who weren't caught. There you go. Jay Sodagar. No, I'm not, by the way. Just I know this.
We've got it recorded now, Jay.
It's out there, available on Spotify.
This was just a sting leading up to that point.
This is Operation U Tree. This is it. This is entrapment. This is entrapment.
I was Jimmy Savile's getaway driver.
You've never seen such a fast release.
Have a getaway driver. What was he getting away from? Parents? And if you had to get a getaway driver, I'm not being funny, you're a shit parent if you're not fucking cuddling your crying kid.
Especially if they're ginger.
So in that aspect, either Jimmy Savile wasn't that bad, or parents are shit.
Yeah. That's the second piece of advice I would have given to you guys. Get a getaway driver. But
being funny, I actually thought, oh shit, that's a bit dark, isn't
it? Go with the stage name of Rolf and just sit there playing with your didgeridoo. And then for my next set, I'll play an instrument.
That's on at 2:45 in the Pleasance.
In the underbelly.
Under your belly.
That's the children's matinee.
I'm terrified. The Edinburgh Fringe just sound like a bunch of sexual predators that are going to be after.
Oh, you've been.
I'm in.
I'd be scared to come out of my hotel room.
I'd be scared to come.
That's all right. They've all got a key.
How are we spelling that now?
I
am making note of what we need to do, Jay. So
Come liking the Free Fest. That sounds good. Write that down, Jay. Free Fest.
Yeah, because it's one of those. It's because the free shows only came about, and there's a lot of snobbishness that kind of goes snobbery that goes on in Edinburgh when all that you ever had was just paid festivals where every performer literally had to fork out 15 to 20 odd grand to do a show. And the performers are the ones who actually make the festival, but they're the ones who absolutely lose all of their money. And when the free shows came up, there's a lot of snobbery where a lot of people went, "Oh, it's free. It's probably going to be rubbish." But what ended up happening was a lot of the awards judges had to go, because they're part of their remit, is they had to go and see all of these kind of 1 hour solo shows, and they went to go and see loads of the free shows and nominated them for the main prize awards, for the main comedy awards. And as soon as people started to twig, hold on, that show is an award nominated show and it was for free, and yet I'm paying 15 quid to go and watch this guy, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So suddenly the free shows actually by quality of like people going, I'm not paying 15 grand to go off and do a show. I'm going to do it at the free festival, but I'm going to still do a solid show, much like anyone else. Now there isn't as much snobbery that kind of goes on from audiences and industry. So they'll watch a free show just as much as a paid show and so on. And in many respects, a lot of people start to think maybe the paid model will probably end because if you've got free, why would everyone kind of go off and pay? But there is still this, I guess, market for people who want to go off and see those kind of shows and so on.
So it's a bit like an escort and a fat bird. One's going to cost you a load of money. One's going to be free, but you're going to get the same pleasure effect either way.
I'm not certain that how Laughing Horse are advertising their particular prefect shows.
And you might get more laughs from the fat bird.
And you'll get breakfast.
Do some good chips. They do some good chips. They know how to make them. I have never looked at it that way before, but Trev has opened my eyes. I now now I have to question: am I the escort or am I the fat bird? I have no idea.
Don't know, but Gabe will sweep you either way.
I feel disappointed that it's Trev that's opened your eyes. I feel like I've laid out a lot of truths here, and I'm getting no praise for it. I'm not happy about it.
That's just the Aldi rum talking, that is, Gabe.
Sorry, you
it's the smelling salts that open your eyes.
Premium rum.
Because the roofies are worn off.
It's only Waitrose rum for me, darling.
Yeah.
You've opened my eyes, but they do burn. They do burn. I have to say, they do burn. But
come, we'll do that. Hey, what?
At this precise moment, I'm sat here going, yes, we're running a podcast, and is it actually a good idea for us to actually go up to Edinburgh and be together? It'll either be an amazing show or every one of us will be posting bail to get out of police Scotland.
You might as well factor that into your Edinburgh costs. You've got your venue hire, your accommodation, your print and distribution, and your bail. That's it. Yeah.
Dialysis machine for Gabe, making sure Dan gets out into public.
Why do I need dialysis
for Jamie?
Why do I need dialysis? Why do I need? No, seriously, why do I need dialysis?
So you can put the rum in and back out again, and back in and back out again. Cut out the middleman. So
that's not how dialysis works.
You can sometimes
also,
buy a
if
new
you're
kidney.
contemplating about me drinking, dialysis doesn't do anything about livers. Right? If you're gonna call me for shit, like call me something properly. You know?
I think Trev may have called you a fat bird. I think that's what he was trying to say.
I mean,
Will you sleep with me?
and if it did a little bit of like, fucking Silence of the Lambs, I could be a bird.
To be fair,
Design a vagina.
reminds me of a lot of girls.
What was that?
I said that beard. If I close my eyes and have a feel, there's definitely some women I may have come across before.
I would argue the fact that they were women, but yeah.
Trev Cowell's show at 1:45 at the Pleasance. There you go.
Includes finger puppets.
Trev also accepting the fact that he was in the Navy, maybe.
I want to bottom out this Amdram. I've got like some kind of Gilbert and Sullivan transvestite thing in my head here.
That went a lot darker than I ever could.
This one hell of an opening to season 2 podcast on Project Comedy. Wow. This is like,
we'll look forward to season 3 when we all get out of jail.
Oh, Jesus Christ, even season 3 where we just fucking bazooka everything.
We have to check the prison Wi-Fi.
Season 3, live for Wormwood Scrub.
Yeah.
So how things change? I don't know, but there's more sex in here.
I do think that we can all agree that it's probably been the most comprehensive how to go to the Edinburgh Fringe review you could ever have had. I'm thinking about turning this into a transcript, and it will be the Edinburgh Fringe for beginners. Go on, before we actually close off this particular episode, then go on, Jay. You're going up in a couple of days. Give us all the plugs and the details.
I might not have mentioned this, but I'm doing a show at the Edinburgh Fringe.
Are you?
Oh, mate,
Yeah.
tell us all about it.
Really?
I'll give you the details. I'll give you it's at 7:45. It's at Bar 50, which is on Cowgate. So if there are any
AM or PM?
PM. There are shows that go on at that time. There are shows that go on at that time. Mostly pissed people just turn up
Yeah.
on a Sunday morning.
Sale to begin.
That might be our in.
I'll take that slot.
It's 7:45. The show's called It Has to Be Said. It's written by me, and I'm very, very proud of it, and it's the best show I've written. So do come and see it. Do come and see it. Thank you.
And you've got the sort of like the Son of the Thursday show running up there.
Yes. Oh yes. The Thursday show that we used to do online during lockdowns and stuff. We always kind of thought, would this work live? And we've tested it out a couple of times, and it does work live. So we're actually doing the Thursday show, but we had to change the name of it to the Early Late Show. So we're doing that every day throughout the Fringe from the 5th to the 21st, I think. That's at 2:45, and it'll be streamed as well. It'll be streamed.
Don't feel bad that you haven't invited any of us on, by the way.
There's a reason to that.
It's called this podcast. This is the reason why we're not invited on.
To be perfectly honest, though, I love chaos, and I love it. I like if you guys do come up next year, that'll be awesome to have you guys on. I might not be in it, but I just want to see. I just want to see audiences' reaction.
Myself away from this.
No, because sometimes with Edinburgh you get very posh people who turn up to these kind of 2:45 shows in the afternoon. Oh dear, I can't go to I'll go to a 2:45 show just to watch their faces while Gabe's talking. It'll be hilarious. Just to watch them sit there and watch this. It's like, yeah, I sucked a cock. And
welcome to the 2:45 matinee. You'll never leave, fuckers.
We'll even lock the doors just to keep him in. Just to keep him in.
I just want to say to anybody else that's been trained by Jay Sodagar, have you ever seen him so rapidly distance himself from some of his students?
One of his students.
I bet he doesn't name drop any of us.
Oh mate, I'm like the shit bomb of hand grenades. Jail never say he has anything to do with me. I mean, adamantly like gonna actually negate the fact that I did his course.
Jay's like, who are these people? I'm on the wrong podcast.
I'll do the project.
They've taken me hostage. Okay. Everyone, please call the police. Help me here. They've locked me in a spare room in my house. They forced me to join.
And I'm trying to suck my way out.
I thought this was a link for the Richard Herring podcast.
and weirdly, the person that I said I had nothing to do with gave me the best tips.
I'm crying. For a reason.
I think we've set the tone for season 2. All I can do now is thank all of my fellow ambassadors, be it Gabe, Jamie, Dan, and Trev. Thanks so much for being back here for season 2. And again, Jay Sodagar, thank you so much for helping us kick off the new season. The first one we might get prosecuted for. And as always, we'll end the podcast with a few links on how you can follow us. How you can follow us on Twitter, where we will obviously be putting links up to Jay's show and the online streaming. So thanks so much, everybody, and until next time.
If you want to see what we're actually like on stage, please have a look at our YouTube channel. Search for Project Comedy, Veterans Doing Stand-Up, and look for our black and white logo that's exactly the same as the one we use for this podcast. You can also now follow us on Twitter. We can be found at Proj Comedy. That's at PROJ Comedy. And me, Jay Saunders, I can be found on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter if you look for Comic Jay Saunders. That's all one word with the letter J in the middle. Comic Jay Saunders. Thanks again to everyone that's taken part in this episode. Until next time. Thanks for listening to the Project Comedy Podcast. Please support our veterans as they continue their comedy journeys. To find out more, including gigs our veterans are doing, please search for the Project Comedy group on Facebook, where you'll also find links to Project Recce, the veterans charity that makes Project Comedy possible.